Well, I like the name of the conference and I like the name of the vendor. I won't be talking about outsourcing today, but what I will focus on is, well, first, FSO knowledge exchange, really the term knowledge. We're in a knowledge-based business. We're not a manufacturing-based business. We're not building caterpillars. We're building investment portfolios and conveying that knowledge throughout. We're not in the construction business. We're not building towers. So it's about knowledge. So that's really the core of our business, and that's what I want to talk about. The other thing I want to address in terms of the title of the conference is transformation. What I'm going to talk about is something that's, I hope, transformative. So inside of 30 minutes, all the humble activity I want to do is just to transform the core of the industry. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. I can do that rather easily in three ways. One, if I'm able to influence you as well as I have others on this. Secondly, if I speak very direct. And third, if I speak very, very fast. The example I'm going to use about conveying knowledge is investment performance attribution. Is anyone familiar with that at all? Okay, just one or two. So I'll just explain to you what the concept is. Overall, we're in the investment management business. The key thing is you invest for performance. You want a return on that performance, and you want it to perform better than the strategy's supposed to. In that case, you want it to beat a benchmark. If you weren't going to invest for the long term and beat a benchmark, you'd probably just take your money and shove it under the mattress. So how you get that performance is very important. This is a traditional attribution example. It's what's been in the industry for about 15 years and continuously so. And I've presented this a number of times to investment professionals of this volume. So about 100 people, and I ask them, is this what you do? And they say, yes, this is exactly the same presentation we do throughout the industry. Great. Are you experts on it? Yes. Are you willing to explain this and ready to explain this to anyone? Great. So you own it, you know it thoroughly. Explain this to me. Tell me what this tells you. And there's a long, awkward pause because they can't do it. And then I explain to them, saying, if you're the experts and you've been doing this for so long, if you can't explain it, how on earth could your clients ever get it? It's not working. So let me explain what this is. Again, it's attribution. It's traditional attribution that everyone's done. It's 24 industries broken down of how you break down a portfolio index in a summary line. So we got 25 rows of data. And then 10 columns of information going across: return of the portfolio, the index, the difference, the return of the portfolio, the index, and the difference, and then the attribution effects. Did I overweight or underweight the best component, which would be market allocation effect? Did I pick the best securities inside of those buckets, each one of that? That'd be security selection effect. And what's my total value added? So after that long, awkward pause, I spoon feed folks the answers and says the bottom line is, which is to the far right-hand side, literally a bottom line. You outperformed your benchmark by 77 basis points. The vast majority of that, 60 basis points, is coming from security selection. Rolling up that column, the vast majority of that is coming from the first three sectors, which all are underperforming. So the key thing there is I've just simply clarified information that a lot of professionals couldn't. Secondly, it took a lot of digging. And if it takes a professionals a lot of digging to get to that level of information, that's a lot. And it really shouldn't happen because there's 10 columns of data, 25 rows of data. That's 250 data points. And effectively, only 3 of them matter, the ones that I just conveyed. So what matters here is 1%, and 99% is noise. So if we're having trouble conveying that to our client, that we're telling you what's important, but go find it for yourself. It's just 1% of what we're showing you. That might be a problem. That might be a very big problem. What also might be a problem is what you're also conveying is go find it for yourself. Here's the relative important information, which is 1%. What we're also conveying is we might not care about our clients so much. If we make you have to dig that deep and wade through 99% of stuff that doesn't matter to find what's important, we might really not care about you that much. That's what we're also communicating. And that's really not a great message. So that's a standard of what we do. And I know why we have to do that, because we never can know what that 1% is. We can know it when we see it, but we're probably going to present you 99% of stuff that's absolutely immaterial and absolute noise. We need to improve upon that. And I take that same audience through that again and ask them the same question: what does this mean to you? And I jump to the chase. The only information you're going to get from this slide is whether you need a new eyeglass prescription. It is the same analysis that is done for a high-yield portfolio, for the traditional breakouts people do for high-yield portfolios in the 44 industries in a Merrill Lynch high-yield master type of setting. We need to do a lot better job than what we currently do. So quick questions. What percentage of the public are primarily visual in their receiving sense? Any thoughts? Yeah, 80 is kind of high, but about 70. 70% of people are visual. Visual means graphics. Visual means pictures. We're not quite doing that. We're showing a lot of data. So we have a very big disconnect of we might be reaching our audience in only 30% of their preferred state. We're missing 70% of it. That's not a very good hit ratio. It's not very good to do it all. Well, what's also the attention span of your audience? That's kind of high, 2 minutes. So the way to think about it is hand an average person a remote control and put them in front of a television set. Channel surfing, you have about 10 seconds before they change a channel. And even speakers that go to conferences, etc. You are advised that you have 90 seconds of your audience attention. So when someone comes to pay to see you in a professional setting, you have 90 seconds. And the next time you watch the evening news, take a good look at what they're doing. Every 90 seconds, someone is, or less than that, inflecting their voice, tilting their head, raising an eyebrow, something to keep your attention. So if we are forcing our clients to look at information that they don't understand, and we can't understand inside of 90 seconds, it's never going to be received. So what do we mostly have out there? It's hidden a little bit, but it's a great line from a great movie. What we have out there is a failure to communicate. So really, how much is too much? Well, I guess where do I start? And the first thing is, we'll start with the end in mind, and really start at the end. And no, really, I really mean that. So the first thing is, from the publishing world, don't bury the headline. Give people the summary. Here's why you should listen to me. Here's what matters. And then tell them why. That's particularly important when you have individuals who are very data-oriented and live in data world. If they're going to start building their case from the bottom up and tell you why you should listen to them in the 7th sentence or the 17th sentence, if you think you still have their attention, you might be delusional. So you need to summarize it first. Tell me the bottom line. Why do I care? Then give me the detail. Then you'll have your supporting arguments. Then I can walk through it. That's really how you convey knowledge. And we'll see there's something different between knowledge and information, and especially when we live in a world not only just information but data. So how do we go from data to information to knowledge? Knowledge, as we mentioned, is our industry. To borrow a term from the sporting world, it's our compete level. And compete is a root word for competency. It's our competency level. And you also have to consider the audience and their needs. Every communication win is upon the audience's terms, not what you think it is as a producer. And that's why I spun in the first slides the audience around and said, you're the producer of this, great. Now I'm putting you in your audience's shoes, your client's shoes. Do you get this or not? And the answer was no. Well, then you need to probably change. And you also need to think of the audience's needs. Not necessarily what they want, but what their true needs are. Sometimes you get ad hoc requests where someone will say, I want this data point. I want this specific thing. Okay, what's the request behind it? You might find that they're trying to get something other than what they're asking for. And I'm not really interested in doing rework, and you probably might not as well, because I don't want to be in a scenario where I'm doing a lot of work and someone says, but what I really wanted was, okay, you got what you requested, but not what you wanted. Let's try and head that off of the past and not have me do rework. And we want to prevent information overload. I think as everyone knows, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of information. You know, if someone asks me for information, I want them to have it, especially if they're thirsty for information, but I'm not going to let them drink from a fire hose. It's just not going to happen. So this is something I call the pyramid of wisdom. And it really clarifies and, well, visualizes where we are. There is a ton of data. A data point is simply an answer to a question. You have to ask the right question to get the right answer. Every one of these is an answer, so you need to know the right question behind it. It's way too much. Information is something people use regularly. We're in information business. No, we're not, because I can bury you in information. You'll never be able to get out the information you want. Just as we showed in the first slide, 99% of that alleged information is meaningless. Why would I make you go through that? Knowledge, well, that's our compete level. That's our competency level. You can get to knowledge if you take information and you call it together into an insightful analysis. Then you have knowledge. Then you are competent. If you feed people a steady diet of knowledge and they use it correctly, you get wisdom. Wisdom is something that can be seen in the marketplace as an asset manager that is consistently outperforming everybody else in the benchmarks across time. If you give people knowledge and if they use it properly and you convey it well so it's digestible and can be received in their proper format, their preferred format that people like to receive information, the medium, and in their attention span, you should be able to readily get wisdom. Now it's worth visualizing, well, what does that look like? So this is real information, and this can convey knowledge. What this is, it's this great city's weather from 1980, shown in the New York Times. It's over 30 years old. You might not have gotten anything like this in investment performance at all. We need to have this information. Carter was still president when this thing was up. And the nickname for the New York Times is the Old Gray Lady, which is out there because it was showing all print and no graphics. So even they got it almost 4 decades ago. So the reason I show this is this can readily move into investment performance, which is the whole purpose why people give us money. So that top panel, if you think of that of tracking error, that could be annualized tracking error over time of how more volatile is my portfolio than the benchmark. And then you put an upper and a lower band on that, the AKA Bollinger Bands. And now you get an idea of, am I performing and have the volatility level that I should? This conveys information. The middle parameter, the middle panel, one bar would be the performance of the portfolio, and the next would be the portfolio of the benchmark. And that bottom one, that bottom panel, that could be the VIX, the volatility index. That's a way to show information. That's also a way to work up that pyramid of wisdom, because what's embedded in here is 2,200 data points. So that's how you go from data to information, which essentially each one of these panels are. When you call it together to an insightful analysis, you get knowledge, the compete level of industry. And that's why I show that pyramid again, just from left to right essentially. In the bottom left-hand side, that you're going from data to information to knowledge to wisdom. 2,200 data points, which is data. It's meaningless. Cull it together well. You can get some information. Place that together in an insightful analysis,